as of right now for not complying with the face coverings order as well as the other orders we discussed yesterday.
But I thought you had some things we had to discuss and
no,
go over.
Regardless, it's still a health hazard and it's been ongoing for a while. So I'm just serving the order, LCNI, but our medical health officer signed off on it after we related.
Who signed off?
So yeah, all the information's on the order. Feel free to call us. You can speak to my manager if you'd like.
So there's
but at this point, we've already discussed everything there's to discuss.
There's no room for discussion between you and I?
You can call my office and I can direct you to my manager. Yeah. As far as the order is, you have to take it up with the provincial health officer, basically.
I know, but I can't get in touch with him.
Oh my God, just be sure to give us a call. We're just serving the order, like I said, and you can discuss with our manager. But at this point,
so we can't have any discussion.
Yeah, we can do that later. We're past that point.
But you guys came in yesterday, and I was
ordered to close. That's that.
So yeah, we'll discuss that with you. If you'd like to call us, we can talk.
Well, of course I want to call you. So what's the information?
We'll give it. All the information's on the order. Feel free to give us a call. I'll pass it on to our manager. We can talk from there. But as of now, you're closed. Yeah. We've already discussed this, so we're gonna go.
You know what? You realize I'm a mother of 4 children, right?
You guys are stuck in.
Oh my goodness!
Shame on you.
This is Dan Dix here, reporting for Press for Truth, and we're here at Corduroy Restaurant, a family-run business that is just being essentially shut down by the government. And I'm joined here with the owner, Rebecca. Rebecca, thanks so much for taking some time to speak with us here at Press for Truth. Now, I'd like you to just maybe, if you could start from the beginning, how did all of this start for you, and how did we get to the point where we're at today, where the government is literally coming in and shutting you down?
Well, you may have seen us in the news back in the spring. It's been a really hard year, as any business owner will tell you, I think for most people. And the restaurant industry has been hit extremely hard. It was blow after blow, restricting our hours, restricting our capacity, and restaurants operated at very minimal margins. So any sort of restriction to operations is a huge hit. And, unexpected closures for us, they would throw at us. And so in the spring, they closed indoor dining. And we are a small restaurant. We don't have a patio. We don't have the outside area to have a patio. And so what we saw happening is these big chain restaurants had massive parking lots, and they could essentially create outside, inside. And it just seemed that, again, as a lot of people I think agree, that they're trying to hurt the small business and the smaller guys. So we took a hard stance and peacefully protested that indoor dining ban and remained open. We stayed open for a few nights, had a lot of support, and the government closed us down. It was a few weeks. We reopened again pretty quickly with a safety plan in place. And then things were going really great over the summer, and then the vaccine passport came into play. And that is something that, as a human being, I can't see as morally correct. But there's also laws that state that we cannot ask this of our patrons. So there's conflicting messaging. And so we decided to modify our service this time, even though we don't agree with the PH order. We thought, okay, we'll modify our service. Fast food establishments, small food courts, they are allowed to operate without checking passports. So we switched our model of service to operate as they do, with counter service. We put a time limit on our tables to keep the amount of time customers were in here short. We even reduced our own hours, so people weren't staying here late. And we sent off questions, clarifications, trying to get answers from all different government bodies with no response. And here we are. They didn't give us a warning. They just didn't give us any options of how we could modify things. They just closed our doors.
So you essentially tried to play by the rules, really, to do it properly and in a legal way, like you said, same ways that these food court malls food is doing. But that wasn't good enough for them?
No. And we've been labeled a public safety hazard. the way we were operating. And we have an issue with that because as we've even have video evidence, malls, food courts packed, McDonald's dining room packed, with no restrictions on time or how long someone can stay there in place. So how is our small restaurant operating the same sense as they are a safety hazard? And it's been released that our Vancouver health officer here, our local one, Patricia Daly, stated they're actually not even seeing high transmission in restaurants. It's an incentive to get people vaccinated.
Why do you think it seems that they've specifically focused on targeting the restaurant industry, especially here in Canada right now? There's other places around the world that aren't dealing with this, but it looks like they've focused on that. Is it because that's largely where a lot of the middle-class mom-and-pop shops are operating, or why, in your opinion, do you think they're going after this particular industry?
I think they're hitting us when we're down. There's a lot of people struggling, so they will basically do anything to survive. I also think it is an incentive program because they know a large portion of the population that maybe was hesitant likes to go out, likes to socialize, and if they restrict the things that they like to do, it'll incentivize them to go get it. I've even opened up FOI requests asking for the cases linked to restaurants, gyms, and fitness studios, and there is no data. And I have that confirmation in email too. So it's very interesting that we're considered a health hazard, yet there's no evidence to back it up, which is what I was asking for, is please show me how we are doing things incorrectly or operating in a manner that's causing harm to the public. And I'm not getting those answers at all.
Now, recently you had some, I believe, bylaw officers, maybe even accompanied by actual officers, actually physically come to the restaurant. What did they tell you in the most recent visit? What was their reasons for even being here?
So the most recent visit, I wasn't here, and they came in. Apparently, they were following my staff around. So she called me, and then they said that they were there to investigate some complaints as well as just do a routine inspection. And then on the phone, they were saying about the complaints that they got about passports, masks, and I said, okay, well, can you please come back tomorrow when I'm going to be there to set up a meeting? I emailed them that morning at 5 a.m., called. Are we still meeting today? Are we still meeting today? And then they just showed up with a closure order. No discussion, no meeting, no nothing.
So it sounds like they're kind of putting just bureaucratic red tape in the way to make it extremely difficult for you to even be able to challenge this. Is that fair to say?
Well, I feel it should be fair. Like if there's other establishments that operate as a restaurant, like the chain restaurants that are fast food, why wasn't there an option for a small business owner, a small restaurant owner to negotiate, okay, well, I don't agree with the passports. I don't feel comfortable. I don't know if I'm going to be held liable for asking my patrons this because the government won't even confirm that. Can I operate just like this place? Or what are the guidelines that makes that establishment okay to not check passports, but this one has to? And it shouldn't just be the title of your license. It needs to be actual health and safety, which this whole thing is supposed to be about.
Now, what about the business license? Has that been suspended indefinitely, or is there a chance that you're going to be able to get back in business anytime soon?
So Vancouver Coastal Health, as soon as we get approved with our COVID safety plan, they said we can open. The Vancouver City Business License Office has suspended our license till December 31st, but they can't take away your license unless you've actually broken the law, which we haven't technically done.
Right. So you do have plans to reopen and start operating again, or?
Absolutely, yeah.
So, what happens when there's? It seems like this came about by complaints, right? People who just maybe came in here and noticed that you didn't ask. Do you expect more people to continue to complain?
Well, our plan is to open up along the guidelines as other establishments can function without checking passports, and if they can do it, please explain how we're any different. It needs to be and it can't just be it's a public health order. It needs to be explained because this is people's livelihoods, it's people's business, it's people's privacy, and there's laws that state that this is totally illegal to ask people's privacy of their medical information.
Are you guys prepared to take this to litigation? Should it get to the point that you need to fight this in the courts? Are you willing to take it that far potentially?
Unfortunately, I think it has to be, because as I've said, I've tried to get the answers through communication, through email, through phone calls, through meetings, and I can't get that. And I think the only way to get that is to force them to via the courts.
And let's be clear, you're a family business. You have children, you have another child on the way. I mean, this is going to financially impact your family significantly if they don't allow you to operate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is our income here. This is our restaurant we've had for 13 years. So we need to be open and operating. Plus, we have staff. Staff have families as well.
How many staff do you have here?
I think it's 12 or 13 now. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And plus, it's the serving of the community as well. We're lined up around the corner every night. There's a huge community of people that need a place to go and aren't welcome in other places. And for what reason? They shouldn't have to be forced to go only to a coffee shop or a fast food establishment. They should be able to sit down into a restaurant and have a meal. So
How has the response been overall? Because you've been getting a lot of mainstream coverage, and they've been slanting this in the way that they do. But have you had a lot of people actually show you support and say, "Yes, thank you guys for putting yourselves on the front line and doing what's right and what needs to be done"? Has there been a certain level of support behind you guys ever since you took this righteous stand?
huge. Like I said, lineups around the corner every single night. People coming in. I was crying every night. People were crying every night, just emotionally, over the fact that number one, there's a space they can go to, but also just the fact that it's actually come to this, where you can't go certain places just for your medical choice or even for a medical reason.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people are saying, had there have been 5 more, 10 more, maybe a dozen more, maybe 20 or 30 more restaurants who thought just like you do and who decided collectively to do the same thing at the same time, perhaps it would have been a heck of a lot harder to shut everybody down. Is there anything like that in the works, or are restaurateurs talking with one another to try to figure out how to combat this thing together?
Yes, we are, and there's a lot of restaurants that are doing it discreetly, which is great, but unfortunately it doesn't send the message and doesn't make it clear that how many restaurants are actually against this. I know for a fact restaurants are suffering because of this, so they're taking a hit in revenue. So I think we are unfortunately the ones having to lead the charge and show people that yes, it's a hard pushing a rock up a hill, but it is necessary and it's important, and that if we do work together, we can make a big change. But I think it's trying to figure out the balance of sticking to what you believe is right and fair and lawful, and also working with the government, and also balancing the fact that they need to show their evidence and hold them accountable. So we have a huge support network from the restaurants, but I think a lot of them are under so much pressure and so much fear. They are basically just, they've really done a good job of beating them down to the point of just willing to do everything just to survive. And unfortunately, a lot of them won't survive even if they comply.
Well, I know a lot of people watching this are going to be outraged, as they should. For the average person at home who's seeing this now and just learning about this for the first time, and they're thinking, man, this is absolutely terrible. I need to, help these kind of people and do something. Is there anywhere right now, maybe online or anywhere, where people can go to find out how they can help you guys in this important cause?
Someone did set up a GoFundMe for legal challenges for us. So we have it linked on our Instagram bio. So our Instagram is at Corduroy Restaurant, and in our bio there's a little Linktree button, and there's a legal fund GoFundMe that started. So it's been an outpouring of support already. It's pretty incredible.
Well, you're going to need it. I mean, we're in October, the end of October right now, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but as you said, you're not allowed to operate now until when in December? That's quite a while from now.
So we're going to challenge that December 31st deadline because VCH could very well approve us next week. We've already submitted our COVID-19 safety plan, so there's going to probably be some back and forth and figuring out what's going to work for everybody. But once they approve that plan, we are going to challenge the city on that order to December 31st.
Are you confident that they're going to approve that, or do you think they may try to throw in some more of this red tape to try to trip you guys up? I mean, I know you don't have a crystal ball, can't see the future, but what's your gut tell you that this battle is going to lead to?
I mean, in the end, unfortunately, if this really is about incentive and coercion, then they want us to comply. And we are going to modify as much as we can to comply, but the whole passport checking thing is something that we don't think is legal at this point, and that's why we need a legal team to help us support that.
Is it safe to say the pushback has been incremental? Because it seems like at first it was all about enforcing masks inside, and then it became all about, well, no, you have to have an outside patio, and now it's about you have to ask people for their private medical information. Have you seen this coming about in incremental moves as well?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to see how much they've done in the last year, and it's like that little drip effect where they just keep adding on more every little bit, and people forget what it actually was like before and how outrageous all this extra stuff they're adding on is. So
yeah. Wow. So the last time they visited, how long ago was that? Because this is all just pretty fresh. And when were you officially shut down for now?
I think it was just 2 days ago, October 20th. Yeah.
Wow. So I mean, I really want to encourage people to check out the Instagram, and I mean, are there any other? There's so much that is involved with this. It just seems like just a flat out attack on the middle class, on mom and pop shops of all sorts of industries. I mean, what do you think their end game agenda here is? Is it all about just screwing over the middle class, or is there a bigger agenda here?
It's just about control, and unfortunately, small business owners are our target because we are free thinkers, we create our own hours, we work for ourselves, and so if they can get rid of that whole sector of people and just have the big corporations, which are probably part of this decision making even, right? So I do think it is an attack on small business owners.
How long did you say you've been running this business before this?
13 and a half years.
13 years. 13 years of your hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, I'm sure, have gone into making this thing a success, and now they just want to take it away at the blink of an eye. I mean, it's shocking, really. People should be really flipping out about the fact that they can do this right now, especially when they're not even doing it in other countries, right? I mean, how does it make you feel when you can see people in the United States and in other places in Europe who are operating freely and just continue to just be able to operate their business like as if everything's back to normal? Have you seen that?
It's shocking. It's shocking that I never would think that Canada would be the spearhead in the movement of control and what they're doing to their citizens. It's outrageous, actually.
Yeah. I mean, we're to the point now you can practically not even leave the country unless you have a vax. So essentially, it sounds like it's a constitutional issue for you guys, right? That this is violating, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do you feel that asking for the vaccine passport is violating people's constitutional rights?
There's constitutional rights, there's the Human Rights Code, there's the Privacy Act, there's the Immunization Act. And for example, if a health officer came into the restaurant and wanted to see someone's vaccination status, they are not allowed to ask that. Right. So a police officer cannot come in and ask that of our patrons. So how can we can't even ask that of our staff. Mm-hmm. Right. We can't find out our staff's medical status or their vaccination status. So how does it make any logical sense that we're supposed to ask our customers?
Mm-hmm. And it does seem like there's almost like a big brother element to this, because I recall back when they used to want to do contact tracing in the restaurants, and they would force restaurant owners to collect people's private information, their names and cell phone numbers. In the beginning, were they requiring you guys to take down people's private information as well?
They wanted people to leave their name and number and hold onto it for a month, yeah.
Yeah, well, we noticed a lot of people were incorrectly just leaving that information up front so anybody could see it. And, if you had a stalker or something, somebody could just follow you in and get all your information. So it looks like, would you agree this is giving them the ability to quite literally track, trace, and database everywhere people goes? Right. Starting in the restaurant industry, really.
And I think people don't realize that once you have that QR code on your phone that says you're green, it's a flick of a button to make it all of a sudden not. And we've seen in other countries the added on of the boosters. So is that going to be something that you have to keep updating every few months, every year even? I mean, I think people are going to start to see, okay, this is getting ridiculous. I don't want to keep doing this. But unfortunately, if you've already done it, you're part of the reason why this is going to keep going. So, I mean, I thought that, the passports, that's going to push people to the edge. But then here we are. It just keeps going and going, and people are not pushed to the edge yet. And I think it's because whoever's doing this is doing a really good job at slowly dropping it on people so they don't really see their freedoms being completely taken away.
In a perfect world scenario, what would you like to see come out of this? Maybe not just for you, for everyone, in the coming weeks, months, next year. How would you like to see this evolve as opposed to dissolve the way it is?
Well, number one, remove the passport system. That's first and foremost. That's got to go. And I think it's time where they start, maybe if they've made a mistake and they feel like they can't pull back, maybe it's time to start saying, okay, we screwed up here. We made a mistake here. I mean, I think they're scared of the public's reaction if they find out that these vaccines they got is harming them, or all these mask mandates were harming them. I think people are going to be upset, but I think it's time the government starts to say, okay, maybe we're doing things wrong here, because things aren't changing. It's getting worse. So I think it's time that themselves and maybe independent bodies start investigating, well, is this really the right approach to battle this virus?
Right. Yeah. Good point. I mean, clearly, it hasn't been working, and now it's leading to the point of shutting down people like yourself who have been trying to do this in the right way, and even go about doing it in the following the rules essentially. Are there any other potential loopholes that people have found, that other ways of kind of getting around these mandates that you know of?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because, there's a few different orders. There's one PH order for gatherings and events, and you can have a gathering or an event, serve alcohol and food, and if it's under 50 people, you don't have to check passports. Our restaurant is 46 seats. So we should, if we call ourselves an event, does that make us safe? Again, the counter service thing at McDonald's, I'm not sure why that makes it safer. The alcohol service, that's part of the reason why they said they chose food and liquor primary establishments, is because of the alcohol. And yet we have liquor stores that have been deemed essential the entire time. Things just don't really connect and make sense, and I think that's part of their game plan. It's like, let's just make this so ridiculous and not make sense that people just can't even really question, well, it's got to make sense somehow, because this doesn't make sense, and
Well, to me, it was something that never made sense was the plexiglass in between tables that you can reach underneath or over top if you want. Did they try to put that on you guys here as well, forcing that sort of thing?
We did have dividers between tables at one point. They now want us to put up plexiglass. If we have staff that have medical exemptions, they need plexiglass between them and the customers. So, yes.
Right. Now, the medical exemption is something that should be honored, really, moving forward. So perhaps people who do want to come can actually get that, or at least tell you that they have a medical exemption. And shouldn't that be enough for you? I mean, it would be for me.
We've always honored that. It says right in the PHO order. When they came last time in the spring, they said, what do you do with people that don't wear masks? I say, I assume they have an exemption. Me or my staff is not comfortable asking them to put on a mask if they're not wearing one, or why they're not wearing a mask. If they come here with no mask, we assume they have an exemption, and we leave it at that. And the PH order states that exemptions exist, and you don't need to show proof, and they should be taken at face value.
Mm-hmm. Man, everything about this just seems so incredibly epically wrong. I really hope that people are going to understand the grave injustice that's being done here. Just once again, in case you didn't mention it, we'll be sure to put it up on the screen as well. What's that Instagram, once again, so people can find that GoFundMe campaign if they do want to contribute right now?
Thank you. It's at corduroyrestaurant.com. So CORDUROY restaurant. Oh, not .com, just at Corduroy Restaurant.
Right. At Corduroy Restaurant on Instagram, and there's a link to the GoFundMe page?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Guys, I strongly want to encourage everybody to check that out. These are the people who need our support moving forward, especially in this time when they're clamping down on the middle class, the mom and pops. These are the guys, and you guys are the brave ones who actually were some of the first ones to stand up against this thing. So once again, I really just want to thank you guys for having the courage to do that, and want to just encourage you to keep it up, especially, I hope you can open up before December, but even if it ends up going to then, hopefully hopefully it can be done in a way that they understand you're operating, legally, properly, and you've got a family to feed. So, and any final thoughts that you might, just maybe words of advice out there for other restaurant entrepreneurs out there who are dealing with this. I think there's a lot of people who are of the same position that you are, but they may be on the fence and are not so sure how to navigate this new crazy space we're all finding ourselves in. Any words of advice for somebody who's been going through this and taking the battle on?
I think don't be afraid to ask questions, because it's showing the holes in this. Every time I would send off something to get clarification on question, it stumps them. And if the majority of us keep sending in the exact same questions, they have to begin to address them. They can't just keep saying it's a public health order. We deserve the right to know why we are being picked on in this industry, and also why we are jeopardizing our business, excluding our patrons, taking a huge loss in sales. We need to know why, and if it is about safety, then please just show us how it is a safety measure in place. So don't be afraid to ask questions and keep on them. And to all departments, all government bodies, send in the questions, get them to follow up, record phone call conversations, keep those emails, and you can always reach out to me on Corduroy Instagram page. We do have a private business group that we do work together with. It's for restaurants, gyms, and fitness studios, the ones that are in the PH order. So we do work together, and I update them, and we do have some business tools and resources there as well. So definitely reach out.
Perfect. That's great words of advice. Once again, I strongly want to encourage everybody to check out those links in the description. Once again, these are the exact kind of people we need to be supporting moving forward, the guys who are standing on the real front lines of this battle, trying to fight for all of our rights and freedoms. So once again, thank you guys so much for maintaining, staying open, respecting people's rights, and for taking this battle head on. It's, on behalf of the people watching this, is very greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.